Hi guys, I hope you're all well. How are you all today? I've said hi to some of you in the comment section. I'm out of breath. I'm there saying to my little girl, please don't come back just yet. Give me 40 minutes. I'm going live. I'll be back in 20. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm running downstairs, trying to open the door, and I'm in the loft. I have a YouTube studio in the loft in my house. So anyway, welcome back everybody. Welcome to Crime Stories Obsessed. Hello to all the new members that have joined recently. Thank you to all my subscribers, new and old, all the moderators in the chat. You do a wonderful job. If anybody wants to do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Just send me a message. So we're back with another live show. And as you know, I don't do many live shows. I'm going to start trying to do a few more. I would show my face tonight, but I've not been in the shower and I look a complete mess. So tonight's show is going to be like a short crime documentary type story, and I'm like trying to keep in mind that there are a lot of other cases going on in the world. There are a lot of other things going on apart from summer, and sometimes we just need to just have a little break from it for a few hours and come back to it with fresh eyes and ears, if you know what I mean. Hello everybody, hi in the chat. Thank you for the hugs. That's lovely. So thank you for you all being here tonight and supporting me whatever I do, whether it be Summer Wells or something else. So let's get a drink, grab some popcorn, and let's start. So I will be going live tonight. It's in a couple of hours' time, and it will be the Summer Wells case. We're going to look at some of the inconsistencies, and we're also going to be looking at my theory on what I think happened to Summer. Some of you have made some really interesting comments in my comment section regarding little inconsistencies that you've seen throughout the case. Okay, so we're going to look at that. So that is in 2 hours time, I think it is. 8, 9, 9, 10, 11. So it's 3 hours time, 3 hours from now. If anybody wants to join, I've been looking to see what time that would be in America, but I'm not good at that kind of thing. So I wasn't getting very far with that. So we're going to start with this, and I'm going to put some photos on the screen for you so you know who I'm talking about. This is the lady we're going to be talking about tonight. Okay. Will you just put a 1 in the chat if you can hear this? Although she was brought up in modest circumstances, she was the daughter of a carpenter and his social worker wife. Jane Andrews would enjoy a lavish lifestyle that included extensive travel. Because she was attractive and intelligent, she was able to secure a position with a member of the royal family, and she was very young. However, the personality that had gained her entry to Buckingham Palace would show itself to have a dark and dangerous side. What had begun as a fairy tale ended in a scene worthy of a horror film. Jane was born in Cleethorpes in north-east Lincolnshire in 1967. She was the youngest of 3 children. Both of her parents worked, which was not so common in those days, but it was necessary. Though because full-time employment was a rarity for Jane's father, as times progressed and the family's debts grew, Jane's parents were forced to sell their home, and when she was 8 years of age, the family moved to Grimsby, where they settled into a cramped little terraced house with an outside toilet. The move to a cheaper accommodation did little to alleviate the family's financial pressures, and Jane recalled one instance in which she and her siblings were told to look around the house for loose change so that their mother might buy a loaf of bread. This lack of money led to frequent arguments, so Jane found it increasingly difficult to concentrate on her schoolwork. Perhaps, unsurprisingly, she did not always fit the description of a good student, even though she achieved high grades. At the age of 15, she was caught playing truant, and after social services had informed her mother, Jane, she swallowed a cocktail of pills, and she had found them in her family medicine cabinet. Even though her mother quickly realised what Jane had done, she did not call an ambulance. Jane would remain in her bedroom, slipping in and out of consciousness until she finally recovered. And her parents were adamant that the suicide attempt would not be made public. The incident had no effect on Jane's truancy. In a relatively short time, she had destroyed what might have been a successful academic career, and she ended up at the Grimsby College of Art, where she studied fashion design. Jane had been sexually active with a number of partners since the age of 15, and perhaps it was small wonder then that she became pregnant while she was attending the Grimsby College. However, the abortion that followed caused her a great deal of mental trauma. After graduating from college, the best she could manage was a job as a sales assistant at Marks and Spencer's store in Grimsby. It did not appear to be the sort of work that offered much of a future, so she kept on looking for the right opening. And in 1988, she answered an anonymous advertisement in the Lady magazine, and it was for a personal dresser. 6 months passed before Jane received a response. As it turned out, the advertisement had been taken out on behalf of the Duchess of York. Jane was summoned for an interview, which she passed with flying colours, and she began her employment as a personal dresser for the Duchess in July 1988, 1 month before the birth of Princess Beatrice. So a poor girl who had arrived at Buckingham Palace with nothing more than £10 and a suitcase soon found herself in daily contact with members of the royal family. After having lived the first 21 years of her life in conditions of near poverty, Jane was enjoying fine food and luxurious accommodation. For the first time in her life, money was a pleasure, not a problem. As personal dresser to the Duchess, she was also able to buy a car that she'd always wanted and had plenty of cash to spend on clothing of her own. Lady Jane, as she was called by the Duchess of York, had been in royal employment for just under a year when she met an IBM executive named Christopher Dunn Butler. Born in 1946, he was more than 2 decades her senior, yet his age difference appeared to be no obstacle. A whirlwind romance followed, and 3 months after the two had met, Jane had an engagement ring on her finger, and the couple married in August 1990. But things gradually soured. Jane had already had several affairs when she met Dimitri Horn, a Greek shipping magnate, at the charity function. Eventually, she left her husband and took up residence in a flat that the Duchess had rented on her behalf. Citing infidelity, Christopher sued for divorce, and when the marriage between the Duchess and Prince Andrew began to dissolve also, Jane was kept on and was given added responsibilities. The two women continued to be close friends, discussing their ongoing problems with their marriages and traveling the globe together and sharing confidences. As news of the royal breakup consumed the tabloids, Jane's less public relationship with Dimitri was also coming to an end. After this shipping guy had told her that it was over, Jane visited his flat when he was not at home. She smashed his possessions, struck out all references to herself in his journal, and wrote herself a check on his brother's account. Jane's actions towards her ex-boyfriend were not totally out of character. She had made death threats against one former lover and had vandalised his car. She had telephoned another past partner to tell him that she was going to go to an abortion clinic and she would proceed with the operation if he did not come back to her. In fact, she was not even pregnant. Jane took an overdose of pills after that episode, but she survived without the need of medical intervention. Life might have seemed unbearable, but it would only get worse. And in November 1997, when she was in her 10th year with the Duchess as her dresser, Jane was suddenly dismissed. The termination came as a great shock to her. It was all the more difficult to accept when the Duchess allowed someone else to give her the bad news. And while the reason given for the abrupt dismissal was cutting costs, Jane's finances fell under scrutiny. Her salary was a modest $18,000 a year, and yet she had managed to purchase an expensive London flat and amass some £50,000 in savings. The Independent quoted a palace official as saying, "It was never proved legally, but we are convinced that she stole a huge amount of money from the royal family." Another factor had perhaps contributed to Jane's dismissal, maybe. She had also told other members of the royal household that Count Gaddo della, an Italian aristocrat with whom the Duchess was friendly with, had been paying her some attention. Jane was deeply depressed at this point, so it was some time before she managed to find another job, and in the end she was hired by this upmarket London jewellery firm, Annabel Jones. When she worked in the silver department, she seemed to enjoy it. And in August 1998, she met a well-connected businessman named Tom Cressman. The couple had been introduced by a mutual friend, and after which the businessman insisted on driving Jane home after learning that his passenger was flying off to Greece the next day. He made certain that she was met with roses on her return. Despite such a promising beginning, though, it seemed that Jane and Tom were not all that compatible. The 39-year-old businessman relished his bachelor lifestyle, and while the new girlfriend seemed keen on marriage, there were other factors too. According to Jane, Tom enjoyed anal, bondage, and role-playing, all of which she considered disgusting. The friction between them was such, according to Jane, that each of them threatened to expose each other's secrets, and Jane was going to tell her boyfriend's business associates about his sexual ideals, while Tom was ready to go to the tabloids with a series of juicy stories about Jane's time with the Duchess. A few months into the relationship, Jane broke her wrist while dancing with Tom, although she thought he had injured her deliberately. Jane accepted his offer to stay at his West London flat while the injury healed, but Jane had no intention of leaving once it did. The unhealthy relationship came to an end in September 2000, and according to Jane's account, Tom had finally accepted the idea of marriage. However, the evidence suggests otherwise. Early in this month, Jane and Tom attended a boat show in Italy, followed by a visit to the Cressman family's villa on the French Riviera. It was at this point during the trip that Tom bluntly informed Jane that he would never marry her. On the final day, Jane drove to the airport, Nice-Côte d'Azur, with Tom's mother and his nephew. Her mobile telephone conversations could be clearly overheard, and she was telling her friends that the relationship was through, and yet she returned home with Tom. Jane later claimed that Tom had undergone a change of heart on the flight back to England, and that he had gone so far as to agree to seek counselling for his sexual interests. However, by the next morning, 16th of September, Tom had reconsidered his position, according to Jane's testimony. Tom tied her up and anally raped her before ordering her out of his flat. A physical fight ensued, during which Tom was driven to call the police telephone operator for help. Tom said, "I would like someone to stop us hurting each other. If you don't have somebody here soon, somebody is." So this is the telephone call between Tom and the operator when he dialed 999. Operator: "Right, Mr. Cressman." Tom: "Yes." Operator: "All right, what are you wanting your partner to do? What are you arguing about?" Tom: "Our relationship." The operator: "Do you not think it will be better that you discuss it when you both calm down?" Tom: "I would love to discuss it calmed down, but she will not." The operator: "Do you want her to leave?" Tom: "Yes." Operator: "Right. What you should do, sir, is arrange for her to find suitable accommodation." Tom: "I would love her to do that." Operator: "That's not something the police can provide for you." Tom: "No?" Operator: "That's something you will have to discuss calmly. I will get the police to come and see both of you. All they would do is advise you regarding your behaviour. There's nothing specific we can do. We are not a marriage guidance service. We deal with crime." And of course, working in the services, I completely agree with that statement, because we get caught to all sorts of strange things like that too. Anyway, moving on. But no help arrived, and the calls were recorded on Jane's mobile phone, indicated that she had left the flat by noon. Although the recipient of most of the calls was Tom, Jane was also communicating with his parents. While she had been away from the house, Jane had emailed them copies of the sexually charged correspondence that Tom had exchanged with Deborah, an American woman he had met at a conference in Las Vegas some months earlier. And yet, despite it all, Jane returned to Tom. Why? According to Jane, the violence of the morning had seemed unreal. In her account, the last evening they spent together featured another attempt at anal sex, after which Tom had fallen asleep. She was not certain whether or not she too was sleeping when Tom suddenly began beating her. He was yelling, "I'm going to fucking kill you." Jane said that she managed to grab a cricket bat and a kitchen knife, both of which she'd had earlier carried upstairs, and then lashed back. So, wondering why she had a cricket bat and a kitchen knife upstairs with her. Strange. The cricket bat struck Tom on the head, after which he pulled at Jane's hair and then somehow fell on the 8-inch knife, like you do. With life draining out of his body, Tom failed in his struggle to remove the knife from his chest, while Jane's recollection of Tom's death was extremely sketchy. As were the moments that followed. She did not remember showering, though the evidence clearly indicated that she had. How long she remained in the house afterwards is unknown, but before leaving, she scrawled a note: "Tom hurt me too much. He was so cruel to me." Tom's body was discovered 2 days later, when an employee visited the house. And in the meantime, Jane had been texting her friends. Among those she'd contacted was the Duchess of York, who asked her to turn herself in. And when 4 days after the murder was found, she was found curled up on the back seat of her white Volkswagen Polo, suffering from yet another overdose. How much? If anything, the jury believed Jane's story of abuse at the hands of the man she wanted to marry, perhaps reflected in its verdict. The judge had instructed the jury that they could acquit Jane of the charges if they decided that Tom's death was an accident or that she had acted in self-defense. Alternatively, a verdict of manslaughter could be considered if they felt that Jane had been provoked or had suffered from diminished responsibility. But in the end, however, the jury determined that Jane was guilty of murder, and on the 16th of May 2001, the former dresser for the Duchess of York was sentenced to life imprisonment. She was subsequently diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and in 2009 she escaped prison and 3 days later was recaptured at a hotel 6 miles away. She was finally released on license in 2015 and is now at large and ready to move on with her next victim. Okay, guys, that's all.
Okay, so I pre-recorded that last night because I was going to upload it as a recorded video and add the photos, but I thought, well, you know what, I'll go live with it because then I get to talk to you guys. So there you go. So this woman is now at large. Like, she's just able to because in this country, life is not life. It's not like in the US. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Tilly. Thank you, Cadmus. Thank you. In the US, life, I don't know how many years is it? Is it 40? I can't remember. I think it depends, doesn't it? But over here, I think it's like 20, 25 years. And they only get to serve like about 15 or something, you know, for good behaviour. Thank you, Ian. That's really kind of you. Thank you. So they're out in no time. You know, you blink, you forget about a crime for 5 minutes, and then they're out. And it's like, well, you've taken somebody's life. So why should you be able to live yours normally? Like, you know, just seems unfair. So everybody wish Candace a happy birthday because it's her birthday today. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Candace. Happy birthday to you. There you go. As you can see, that's the reason why I'm a crime channel and not a pop channel. Thank you, Joanne. Got so many nice people in here today. Kat's doing a great job sorting out with the mods, trying to get people modding for the channel. Thank you, Candace. If anybody's interested, just leave a comment in this video and I will come back to the comments afterwards and I will put you all in because I can't do it while I'm on live here because I'm on my laptop. Not laptop, iPad. But I can go back into it later on Creator Studio and mod you. If you want to become a mod, it's a lot of work, you know, especially when the chat's going fast. I will try and slow it down because we're going to do the Summer Wells in a few hours time. And I know that gets quite hectic in the chat, so I'm going to try and slow it down. I've been instructed to do so. Kat told me earlier, she said, you've got to slow it down. I said, okay. Okay, Kat, yes. Norma, thank you. That's really kind of you. I do appreciate super stickers and things. I don't do many lives and, you know, it's really kind. It all helps. Thank you. Thank you, Joanne. I'll bear that in mind. I'll go back later. So what do you think about this woman? She went from basically nothing to getting this great opportunity. The money obviously went to her head. The car, the lifestyle, going to soirees, balls, parties, wearing the nicest dresses, probably getting backhanders from, you know, the royal family, making friends and acquaintances within the royals, you know, getting limos here, there and everywhere. Just, you know, just living the lifestyle, you know, getting a great opportunity that many young teens, young 20-year-olds would absolutely love. And it just went to her head. And of course, you couldn't just go out get a date with a normal guy. It had to be somebody with money because she was around these types of people. Thank you, Joe and Joan Spring. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I think you're lovely and I want to help protect you. Thank you. Yeah, kind of need protecting after yesterday. Anyway, I'm not going to go back into that one again. If you didn't watch Doug, I was on Doug's channel last night, on the last half of his channel. In one of his, I think he did a few actually, went live a few times, but I was on one of them. And we had a bit of a chat, and I kind of lost the plot a bit actually. I was a bit annoyed about something and someone. But if you want to go back and watch that, you can. I'm not going to go back into that now. It's not worth my breath. So yeah, so she had this lovely lifestyle. It just went to her head, completely went to her head, and look where she is, and look what's happened to her now. She's probably not got much. She's ended up in prison, and it's just sad, really. And then of course mud sticks. So the royal family, it doesn't look good on them, does it, having a murderer as an ex-dresser at all. Having said that, I think they create enough of their own drama without us adding to it. I'm not a massive royal family supporter, to be honest, and I'll tell you one reason why, and this is my only personal opinion. And I know I live in the UK, and a lot of people from other states, other countries really love the royals and the royal family, and I can see why, but from my own personal opinion is, and I'm not bashing anyone, is that it costs a lot of money for these people to live the life that they do in the castles, and with the chefs and the cleaners and the dressers and the waitresses and waiters, and you name it, you know, you can imagine, can't you? And the royal yachts and royal planes and everything else that they've got. And who's paying for that? Who paid for the wedding between the prince and princess? It's all coming out of the taxpayers' money for them to live that lifestyle. And, you know, a lot of people are happy with that. But just for me personally, I just I'm not, you know, overly impressed with that. But that's just my own personal opinion. Like I say, it's not everybody's. But anyway, that's not what the story's about. So I thought I'd bring that to you. I thought you might like it. If you want to join me again later, I will be back with the Summer Wells case. We're going to be going over my theory as to what exactly I think happened to Summer Wells. We're also going to be going over some of the inconsistencies that some people have picked up on that I hadn't even noticed, to be honest. We're going to be looking at those. We're going to be talking about a particular drug that relates to one of my theories and what it would do to you. If anybody's interested, I do have a bonfire. It's called Bonfire. It's a Crime Stories Obsessed shop where I do mugs, hoodies, t-shirts, etc. And the link is under my videos. So if you go back into one of my videos, go into the description box, and the bonfire link is in there. And you can see they're all really fluffy. I also do giveaways every month. So I do a giveaway, and 2 lucky winners will win either, whether it's hoodies or cash. You don't have to do anything but subscribe and put your name down under the comment in the under the post in the comment section regarding the giveaway. That's all you have to do. Make sure you're subscribed, and it gets picked at random, and you could win. My last winner told me that it had arrived last week, and it was really fluffy, and she actually wore it in bed because she didn't want to take it off. So but I've also done that. So yeah, so I will be back with you in like, what, 2.5 hours is it? And I'll be back with you with the Summer Wells case. Okay, guys, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Sweet, Stephanie, Joanne, Candace, Kat, Tilly, Foxy, Susan, Candice, Patty, Stephanie, Nora, Tamara. Thank you all for being here. I do really appreciate all your support. Any of the super chats you've given me, just being here, that's the most important thing. Just watching the videos is massively supporting me, and I really do appreciate that. So thank you very much, and I will talk to you again later. Take care, guys. Bye.